Welcome, one, and welcome to you all to the greatest show of them all. It is the NFC East Mixtape Volume 170. We're on our way to 200. I suppose technically we're on our way to 1 million if you look at it that way. He is Brandon Lee Gowton from Bleeding Green Nation. I am RJ Ochoa from Blog of the Boys. This show can be accessed on either of these platforms' YouTube channels. Nowhere else. We're as upset about that as you are. We keep getting comments. Just letting you know, not upset at any of you. I am upset at Brandon for existing. BLG, happy Tuesday.
Happy October Eve, RJ, as I am dubbing it here. September 30th, the final day of September. The best month of the year is upon us.
This is the day to get ready to wake up Green Day. You know what I mean? Like this is the one. You know what I mean? Tomorrow,
yes.
we're gonna make the same joke, and I'm gonna be mad about it. I might make the joke myself.
You kind of did already.
At least I got out ahead of it. You know what I mean? Like I did it it was still very dumb and low hanging fruit, but it was more creative than the people tomorrow who will be like, "Hey, wake up, Green Day." You know, that's the worst. I also have come to hate on April 30th, and people are like, "It's gonna be May." We know, we get it. I like all these things too. On Friday, I will tell everyone that it's October 3rd because he asked Katie Herring what day it was.
You're in such a bad mood.
I was complaining to Brandon because I had a technical issue from our work, and I asked for help, and I don't mean to call that support, but what they told me to do complicated what I was trying to do, and so I'm very upset about it.
That's devastating.
It is Red October Eve, as we are being told in the chat by Eagles Girl 52. The Phillies do not play today. Is that correct?
Play on Saturday, their first game.
For the first game on Saturday? Oh, they have to buy, obviously.
Yep.
So, wow. I've got no beef with the Phillies. You know, we've talked about this before. Like when your team beats another in a World Series, you know, it's like, oh, good for you guys. You know what I mean? Like kind of type energy.
I would say I've seen a decent amount of like Phillies Cowboys fans over the year.
My only beef, if the Phillies were to win the World Series, would be the obnoxious, like, oh, the Eagles and Phillies are the best, and Philadelphia is the city of champions, and blah, like that. That part would annoy me. But like Bryce Harper's great, Kyle Schwarber's great, Trey Turner, Harrison Bader's a Gator. You know what I mean? Like I'm good with all that.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there on Saturday and then on Monday as well for the first two games of this series, which I'm guessing it'll be against the Dodgers, but we'll see how they do against the Reds here.
The bank, famously regarded by someone on this show as an unstoppable place where the Houston Astros threw a no-hitter in the World Series.
I was at that game. That was the only World Series game I've ever been to. Aaron Nola, such a loser. And yeah, I mean, the Astros team was obviously loaded, and also they have been accused of cheating. Actually, not accused, proven of cheating in the past.
Not
I guess
that
they weren't
year.
that night. We don't know, but in that case, they did win fair and square. That team was loaded, and the Phillies obviously weren't even supposed to be there. So I would say that series played out about as one, probably as exactly as the odds makers probably expected it to be. Anyway,
wow. Bread Eclipse says this must be a really weird year for you, RJ. We I had last weekend was an awesome sports weekend. My Sun Devils won on Friday night, and that was great. But the United States got trounced in the Ryder Cup. That was you know, a bit of a bummer. You know, the Eagles won, which was unfortunate. And then, you know, we'll get to the Cowboys, but it was a very weird day and very weird weekend despite all. And the United States made it close in the Ryder Cup. I'm sure you kind of saw that, even though you're not a golf fan. So it was an awesome weekend, but I certainly wish the results had gone a different way. But we should go ahead and get into it because that's what we do here on the NFC East Mixtape. Brandon, what are the rules for anyone who is brand new? And if they are, what a shame because they missed the first 169 nice episodes.
Well, we talk about the teams in division order, which means we'll start with the 4-0, undefeated, have won 20 of their last 21 games. Jalen Hurts 18 in his last 18 starts that he's also finished. And it's kind of what I said last week, in that the Eagles just don't lose. Now, no one's feeling great because like they're not playing the best brand of football, which is weird because they go into Tampa, a place I told you last week they've really struggled to play, and they get off to an awesome start. They go up 24-3. It's like, okay, this team looks like a team playing with purpose, a team that realizes that they have struggled here, and they kind of like want to put that behind them. and also a team that looked like, okay, maybe they did turn the corner after that second half against the Rams last week. Jalen Hurts may have not had a better first half in his career. If he has, then this was very close to those because he looked in complete control. Offense looked pretty good. First half of that game against a Buccaneers team that has been, again, the boogeyman, specifically Todd Bowles, going up against Jalen Hurts. That's been a big problem for the Eagles. Everything's great. And then the second half happens. And Jalen Hurts doesn't even complete a pass in the second half, which is just – and the Eagles offense as a whole just looks totally inept, like they did in the first half of the Rams game. And it's just so hard to reconcile. How can you look so good in the first half of a game like that and then look like you're unable to even play football? It's like, okay, there's room for dropping off after a first half that hot. Yeah.
Good for
right?
you.
Like, okay, maybe you're not as good. You struggle a little bit. That's one thing. It's a different thing to not be able to complete a pass. That is another thing entirely. Ultimately, the defense came through, held on. The Eagles are 4-0. They have played arguably their toughest stretch of the schedule, which, started with the Cowboys at home, went to Kansas City, beat the Chiefs, played the Rams, went down to Tampa to play the Bucs. That's a pretty good stretch to be 4-0 in. I went back to our win-loss predictions that we did in the offseason. I think it was 2-2 at this point. And also, they were 2-2 last year when they got blown out by the Bucs in Tampa, and everyone was feeling really terrible about the team at that time, thinking Nick Sirianni is probably going to get fired. So you can't overreact and be like, well, everything's terrible. They're not going to figure this out. They have the worst point differential, but the 2024 Chiefs of a team like this winning this much. At the same time, things genuinely don't feel great, and there's reason to be concerned as well.
This is a really awkward thing to evaluate. I admit, I want to troll, I really do. But kind of like the praise, the troll feels real and inauthentic at the same time. You get what I'm saying? Parts of it certainly feel real and justified, but other parts are they keep winning.
Haven't you picked against them every week too, or at least most weeks?
No, I picked them to beat the Cowboys, and I picked them who they play in week 2 before the Rams. I picked the Eagles to beat the Chiefs.
Okay,
I did pick the Rams, and I did pick the Bucs.
Gotcha.
And so my
point there wasn't that to make fun of you. I'm just saying picking against them doesn't generally work out.
They are flawed, but in a vacuum, they're not. You know what I'm saying? That's the weird thing. On paper, they are incredible, but they're not playing that way. The AJ Brown stuff is very weird. You mentioned the point differential. This stat is making the rounds all over the place, but we should put it into our universe for note-taking purposes. This is Adam Schefter tweeting it out a little while ago, but I saw it going off yesterday. Through 4 games this season, the Eagles have been outgained by 327 yards, the 4th worst margin in the NFL, which is, I think that the Eagles are, and I said this after the lightning delay when we talked about how weird, and quirky that was. They are masters at figuring it out. They are masters at the sky is falling. We're great when the sky is falling. When everyone else tends to fold, they find a way. And I think that was true in Kansas City. I think they found a way. I think it was true in the second half against the Rams. And I think that they, hung on enough and survived an impressive onslaught from Tampa Bay to the point that they won. I wanted to say this about the Phillies, but I think it's applicable here. That Phillies team in 2022 obviously existed at the same time as the first run of this first year of this Eagles run. And for a while, I saw somebody at some point about that Phillies team that said, Philadelphia fans are so dumb for thinking that you could build a team off of vibes. That was the, insult to whatever. And so I've thought about that several times in the years since. And this is I don't even want to call it a consequence because I'm not I'm not blaming anyone, but this is the other end of that. When vibes are such a big part of your calculus, if they're not going well, you're still really good. You still have a lot of talent, but everyone is just mopey all the time.
Yeah, the AJ Brown thing specifically, I'm on his side with this in that he is look at his stat line this year. And it's just, and I think people misinterpret it. I think people think he's selfish and just wants to put up good numbers. I think he wants to put up good numbers through the lens of he knows it helps the team, and he knows he's way too good to be having numbers this low, which he is 100% right about. So you can say, well, I wish he didn't do it on Twitter. I wish he didn't express himself. I don't buy that. Like, you really think it's good and healthy for him to just be feeling frustrated and just bottle it up inside and keep that? Like, I don't think that's productive either. Now, maybe you can say there's a way to do it that isn't going out and tweeting it. But what he said also, I think, is like relatively tame in terms of quoting a Bible verse. Like, it's not like he's on Twitter like, I hate the team, F the coach. Like, there's a difference between that and what he did say. So I'm on his side with this because it's ridiculous. It's insane that this is even a conversation. How is it hard to figure out that A.J. Brown is really good and you should be doing things to help him succeed? I don't like that. I couldn't have sat here like going into this season, and I don't think anyone could have, and expected that to be a problem, because that can't be a problem. It's like, that doesn't make any sense how that would be an issue. It's nonsensical. There's no good reason for it to be a problem, and it has been a problem for the Eagles. So I get him for being frustrated.
I like this thought from Eagles Girl 52, obviously watching on the BGN side of things. That's what is cool about the way we do this show now, is that Eagles fans can watch on the Liberty Green Nation feed and Cowboys fans can watch on the blog on the boys feed. But says, I think of AJ as being a whistleblower instead of a complainer. I agree with that. I do think that he's like, my 30,000 foot perspective is, look, yeah, we're winning, cool, but like this is not going the way it should be going. And the fact that they can still win in spite of that is a testament to the talent and the coaching and all these different things. But this is not meant to be an insult at Jalen Hurts or Nick Sirianni, but I do think it's probably nice to have somebody who's willing to call it all out in a particular sense, as opposed to two people who are just toting the company line over and over again. Like, I know that
he cares, right?
Yeah,
like you want someone to care.
That is so often the criticism of Jalen Hurts, is that he's not that type of leader, and that isn't to say that's right or wrong. But AJ Brown, and I would say Saquon is closer to the Jalen Hurts end of the spectrum than this, if we're calling this an end of a spectrum, you know what I'm saying? So I don't have any issue with it. It is weird that all this drama exists around a team that is the reigning Super Bowl champions and 4-0, and in back-to-back weeks have beaten two really good teams, maybe the two biggest challengers in their conference outside of Detroit, and that the week before that they won the Super Bowl rematch on the road in the place of the team that wanted to beat them so badly. It does scream like there's a lot of inner turmoil. Like, what does it take for you all to be happy? And I actually kind of buy that, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way either. But AJ was the first one, right, who like a week after the Super Bowl, what was his tweet? Like, I've realized this isn't joyful to me or whatever. Like, I thought that was lame at the time, but I understood the perspective of, I like the hunt, I like the chase. Yeah. Okay, cool. But then Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni got into this pissing match of like, who can care the least about having won the Super Bowl. And that really has like soured the whole thing. I think at the very, very, very least, this is a group that kind of likes drama. I don't think that that's deniable at this point.
Well, I don't know about that, but I mean, it's certainly finding them. I think they are a victim of their own success in ways, in terms of how, like, what the standard has become. Ultimately, again, I want to go back to things seemed to be a lot worse when the Eagles were 2-2 last year. And ultimately they were able to turn it around. Just because they did that then doesn't guarantee they were able to do it again. But it can't be like understated how important it was to go 4-0 in this stretch. Like, the wins they picked up are extremely valuable to beat Dallas. To then have a win over the Chiefs, where all the other teams are going to have to play them in the NFC East. And that's a common games tiebreaker thing that could potentially be a valuable thing to have in their pocket. Beating the Bucks and Rams, like having head-to-head tiebreakers over them in the NFC playoff picture, that could be massive. That could be the difference between the 1 seed or not. So, like, even though the style points have not been there, just to even do what they've done to this point is really impressive. Again, it's a very tough 4-game stretch for them by comparison. And, look, in the NFL, it could be like, okay, you win all your tough games, and then now they blow some of these easier ones here. But things do lighten up a little bit here going into the bye. So now is the time for them to prove, like I just said, if I'm going to give them grace and say that you don't totally know who they are after 4 games, like we didn't know last year, they started to kind of figure it out a little bit more. after week 4. So I'm going to hold them to that standard of October, like I just said, being the best month of the year. It's going to be a really important month of the year for the Eagles, and they have to play a lot better in this stretch and really set the table for what they're going to be the rest of the season.
I do think, and I think we can kind of close the book on the Eagles here unless you have anything else, but I do think there is this sense of, I've acknowledged that the Eagles are very well run and have had a lot of success, but there is this sense of September doesn't matter, right? Like, I think it's hard to take it seriously.
Jeffrey Lurie has come out, and he said this before the Super Bowl. They even won the Super Bowl and said, yeah, like September has become an extension of the preseason for us.
Yeah, and so I understand when you have that kind of success, it's difficult to fully lock in, not accusing anyone of taking anything lightly. But that's just the reality, right? And I think that's we talk about that reality in a spin zone way with other teams, right? Like, oh, well, it's still early. They could still figure it out. They could still go on a run. Like, that's completely true. And so if balancing all of these things in whatever ways is happening while the team is going 4-0, there are way bigger problems to have. I mean, like, I would bet the Jets would kill to have in locker room drama, if you want to label this as that.
The Raiders, same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I would rather have people be mad and be undefeated than, group harmony and 0 wins.
Right.
So, I agree, though, with Dustin, by the way, that says the Eagles can't keep getting away with this.
Sure.
This breaks one of 2 ways. I guess this is my last thing. This breaks with everyone chilling out and everyone's super happy and repeating the Super Bowl champions, or this is actually representative. This is the conspiracy theory that I would imagine Cowboys fans, myself included, are hoping for. This is representative. Like, this is the tip of the iceberg, and they will implode down the stretch. This is more 2023 Eagles as we go along than 2024.
Yeah, I don't like that comparison. That's been coming up a lot just because, I mean, the offense wasn't even as bad as it felt that year just because the drop-off from 2022 to 2023, was big. But in it, the 2023 offense on its own wasn't this disastrous unit. Go and look up the numbers for that side of the ball. The turnovers were obviously a big problem. And the defense, like, I am hard-pressed to believe that the defense is going to fall off a cliff like it did that year, and you're going to have, like, Matt Patricia, coming in. Obviously, that won't be happening. The defense, by the way, I actually think, like, played a lot better than it, like, seemed like against the Bucs from a standpoint of, obviously, there were a couple big plays in there, the 70-yard touchdowns, and you can't just wipe them away. Outside of that, though, like, in structure, when Baker Mayfield had to play in structure, he actually had his lowest success rate of his career against this defense. So they were playing really fundamentally sound. And I think there's a lot to like from that defensive performance that I feel good about moving forward. And that floor for that defense is still really high. So that is also a big positive. The offense has to get fixed, and the offense being good is ultimately what's going to drive how good you feel about the team overall. But that defense still being there, I think, is really important.
Is it true that the Eagles and Broncos are both wearing their throwbacks this week?
I don't know. I
just saw this from a Broncos reporter that we're getting Eagles Kelly Green and Broncos.
Broncos have a white throwback?
No. They're wearing the orange throwback, like the old Orange Crush ones with the royal blue helmet with the D logo. You know what I'm talking about? Huh. So. I'll slack you.
That's a cool matchup. If so,
I'm slacking you the tweet just to make it easy for you. Even though I had to re-log in because of these technical things, but whatever. I'm not here to complain about anything. But I did send you the
force.
Force. What are you talking about?
The tweet says the NFL should force the Broncos and Eagles.
Oh, that's my bad.
Wow, terrible job by you. He's opining is the point.
Okay, well that would be cool. I was
gonna say that doesn't sound right. That would be cool. It'd be a very visually satisfying matchup.
Okay, well, yeah.
Well, let's get over your embarrassing gaffe there with turning the page to the Commanders.
The Washington Commanders had an embarrassing gaffe of their own. Look at that segue. We both picked them to win this game. I think you did.
Yes.
I think maybe you took the points though. Which if you did, good for you. Mm-hmm. Atlanta won this game 34-27, and it wasn't really that close. I know you were busy, obviously, but I was keeping tabs on this because the Cowboys played the night game. Atlanta finished the game with 24 first downs to Washington's 17. They were 6 of 12 on third down, had 435 total net yards. I mean, they worked. Look, Dan Quinn's defense is susceptible to a lot of things. I'm the first person who's here to tell you that, but this was a little unforeseen, especially after the week that Atlanta had just had, getting smashed by Carolina.
Well, especially too, seeing that like it's not like Bijan Robinson totally went wild on
He
this
did at
Commanders
first, though.
defense,
I mean, he did.
but like
I
to
would say he. I
the
mean, he
point
didn't
he
have
had.
an Ashton Genty game, but he was a factor. Like
No,
we
I'm
can.
not saying he wasn't effective or wasn't a factor, but he's 75 yards. Like if you told me the Falcons are going to beat the Commanders like this,
He
I would
had
expect
100
Bijan.
yards receiving, though.
Well, that too. Sure. Okay. Yeah. Fair point. But I'm saying I would expect him to totally just go nuclear. Here's my point. I wouldn't expect Michael Penix to have 313 yards. That would be very surprising to me. I was not expecting him to go off like that, considering Michael Penix has really not done that against anyone and hasn't looked that good against any team so far in his career. So, yeah, that Commanders defense, I think, is going to be an issue. Following along with some of the Washington coverage, guess what? It looks like some of the veteran players are an issue. Marshawn Lattimore, that's been a terrible trade for the Commanders. Like, there was thought that, and I was probably guilty of it too, being like, oh, that's a nice deal for them. They got him for what? It was like a third, a fourth, and a sixth, and then the Saints sent a fifth-round pick back. That's not the biggest price to pay up for, but the fact he's been basically unplayable and he really struggled last year, and it seemed like there was thought that, okay, he's getting over this injury, maybe he'll be better in 2025. Hasn't been the case. Has been a total liability for them. Aging corners typically don't get better, so that's a big concern. I saw Bobby Wagner, a lot of criticism for him. Again, older player who was awesome last year, but he's going to fall off a cliff at some point, and it seems like that might be happening. So all these older players that they have, especially on defense, seems like a big concern for them coming to roost. I know they're missing Jaden Daniels. They're going to be better with him than Mariota, obviously. But that defense still, even, like that doesn't change the fact that defense is going to be an issue, I think.
So I'm not trying to be disagreeable about the Falcons, but the yardage for Michael Penix really means nothing to me, especially because Bijan had a third of that himself. But the accuracy, 20 of 26, that is alarming. I mean, I don't care who you are, and even if it is Jalen Hurts checkdowns, if I can get in a rib or two. But like that can't happen. Now I agree with you. The Marshawn Lattimore trade, that was never great though. Like even last year, there was never a point where, like, to your point, Bobby Wagner last year was a matter of, wow, like he's really playing well for Dan Quinn. This was a great free agent signing for them. And it was obviously funny from a Cowboys perspective, because of course he never got Bobby Wagner when he was running the Cowboys defense, but I digress. But the Marshawn Lattimore thing, there's never been a moment where I think anyone, even Washington fans, are like, that's why we traded for Marshawn Lattimore. It just hasn't happened. I know it's only been about a year at this point, but the Deebo Samuel trade has really paid off. I think Deebo looks awesome. I mean, I don't know that he looks like a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, but he is really helping that offense. And they didn't win this game, but with no Terry McLaurin, he absolutely lived up to what you expect him to when you trade for a player like that. Now, the Von Miller move, like, again, we can sit here and we can, poke at them, but the Deebo Samuel one probably took the most heat of all of them online. And I think that one has aged well for them. But ultimately, I agree. Look, I'm not doubting Jaden Daniels. He's an amazing player and an amazing quarterback, but we just talked about the preseason nature of September. He's missed 2 weeks after only playing in 2 weeks. And the last time we saw him play feels like forever ago, but it was that Thursday night at Lambeau Field when he looked awful and the whole team looked awful. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that things are going to get better for them. They're 2-2. They go out to the West Coast to play the Chargers, who just lost. And I can't wait to talk about that in a little bit. And then they host Bears. And I am surprised the Bears won again, but they didn't exactly look great offensively. So maybe that's a win. They're at Dallas, and if their defense is that porous, Dak Prescott, we'll get to that, is playing extremely well right now. At Kansas City, home for the Seahawks, home for the Lions. I mean, this could get tough. I mean, and I know we sort of predicted that. They were a very popular candidate for regression to the mean, but that is kind of happening in a way that we didn't exactly predict. And I think some of that is obviously because Jaden Daniels isn't playing.
And I want to see where Daniels is at, too, in terms of, like, okay, he's back on the field, but what if the mobility isn't fully there? That's a big problem. Not that he can't win with his arm, but, he's a lot less dangerous all of a sudden if he's just limited to being in the pocket and what that offense can do and not having his second, reaction kind of plays there for them. So, I think it felt weird to me too, because like I was watching, I was obviously dialed in on the Eagles game during that time. I didn't even see a lot of people talking about the Commanders game. It's almost just like, people are almost like prematurely like writing them off in a way, or it's just like, oh yeah, they're just like not going to contend. Which it's still early to say that. I would agree. But the stretch they have coming up isn't like the one you outlined, isn't like impossible to navigate, but I just don't have a great feeling about this team's outlook when that defense, I think, again, is going to have issues. It's going to come down to the offense. It's going to have to be Debo, your boy, really carrying the weight for that team, because I don't think the defense is going to be doing that.
Yeah. There's going to be a point where I think everyone wakes up from the dream a little bit here. And I was not, and we, the episodes prove this, I was not as critical of them as you were, mostly because you were like mad that they were happy, I think is really my highest point of disagreement. But
it's really not my argument.
They went for it, and what a surprise, they're not nailing each and every single move. I don't think they've missed on every single move that they've made, but it also doesn't help that Terry McLaurin's missing time now, right? Like, you start to now kind of now we really see how new the era is, like how strong of a new foundation you've laid, because I think it's really easy to let this doubt creep into you, and really easy to feel like, oh man, it's happening again. We're just the same old. Like, I don't think they're the same old at all. But it's really hard to fight
closer to that than it is this idea that they've really turned the corner as a franchise.
I think they've turned a corner as a franchise.
Well, relative to being like totally in having no chance at all, but not in a way that like they're now one of the elites in the NFC. No, they're not.
But to the main point here, if Jaden Daniels is back this week, let's just, live in that world and say it takes him, say we live really rudimentarily and say it takes 4 games to like find yourself. That would mean it takes him this Chargers game, the Chargers who have a really stout defense, obviously. And again, we'll get to Jaxson Dart and what he was able to do. And then the Bears. I mean, so if you're figuring out who you are in mid-October now, I mean, you're further up the creek is kind of my point. You're still maybe not totally without a paddle, but you're further up and trying. It's hard to build this plane as you fly unless you have a track record of doing so, like the Eagles, as we just discussed.
Well, the other thing too is if the Commanders kind of have this rough year, and then you look at the draft, they have only 2 picks in the first 4 rounds, which isn't a death knell, but like, okay, that's not great. And also,
imagine not having 2 picks in the first round.
For as much as you've been trying to maximize Jaden Daniels rookie contract, like that's another year gone of it if they aren't able to turn things around this year.
You ready to move on?
Yeah, let's get on to the Dallas Cowboys. I think Dak Prescott has been playing, I think that might have been his best game in I don't know how long, but he was playing lights out on Sunday night, which then makes it very funny that the Cowboys didn't even win the game. And honestly, a victim of his own success, to use that phrase about the Eagles and then about Dak Prescott, by scoring too quickly there at the end of the game in regulation. Obviously, you can't fault him for that. But I thought Dak, just some of the throws he was making where Packers couldn't have done anything different, like to play better defense. Not that they were playing lights out defense, but even if they were, I thought just Dak played at an extremely high level. And it's unfortunate for him that he has to carry the weight and the defense just doesn't give them a chance, because you're kind of wasting a good regular season from a quarterback who, if he played like that in the playoffs, the narrative on him could be a lot different, but it hasn't been, because this is who he is in the regular season.
He did play like that in the 2022 wild card round, which people, including someone on the show, obviously ignore. That was the 2022 wild card round at Tampa. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's a sub $500 team.
Okay, again, whatever. Anyway, the last time that it felt like he was at this, like in this level of nirvana. I don't know if you remember off the top of your head, they played Seattle on a Thursday night. In December of 23.
Before or after Thanksgiving or something like that?
It was the week after. It was Thursday after. And the Seahawks were their throwbacks, and there was some, debated calls or whatever. And they won. And that night it felt like he was going to win MVP. He had the narrative had, because we talk a lot about how that award is so narrative driven, how you have to have the right story, and things were finally working out for him. And Buffalo and Miami awaited the Cowboys throughout the rest of the regular season, and those are what costed him that award. And then Lamar and the Ravens beat the crap out of the Niners on that. I think it was like Christmas night or the day after Christmas or something on Monday Night Football. But anyway, my point is, like, that was the last time, because as mentioned, the regular season kind of fizzled for Dallas. That was why I was fine moving on from Dan Quinn. And then last year was just completely broken. I think the context of this game is more impressive in that there was no CeeDee Lamb and that the defense was so bad. I mean, it helps having a prominent run game. This is the most impressive run game the Cowboys have had, in my estimation, since 2019-ish. They had strong moments at different points since then, but not anything that was consistently reliable or consistently dependent. Javonte Williams has been that. There are like 5 things every year that the front office gets right that I will, tip my hat to them on. This is one of the 5. And so good for them, good for Dak in that sense. The George Pickens trade was amazing. It sure would be awesome to have that long-term extension taken care of instead of him amassing more and more leverage by, having more. And I said at the time, like, obviously nobody would have wanted CD to get hurt, but I said, imagine that hypothetical where CD has to miss time for some reason and George is allowed to thrive even more and is able to, again, amass even more leverage. That's a March conversation. It's stupid. We don't have to, that. We don't have to say the obvious things. We all understand. We all agree. I was very
even trade for him. It's like, yeah.
Well, I mean, and now the season is so weird or feels so tenuous that you have some Cowboys fans who are saying, let's just trade George away so that we don't have to worry about having to pay him. You get what I'm saying? And this season is lost anyway. Obviously, at the time of acquisition, Micah was still on the team, whatever. And on like to get to the Micah of it all, I'm so grateful this is over. This was just everything was building towards this because they traded him on August 28th. This game was on September 28th. I'm very, very grateful. There is still some fallout. PFF had Micah as the highest rated individual player, and that upset a lot of people. I'm so done with this. I'm grateful that it's all in the rearview mirror, even if it's only recently in the rearview mirror, because it does feel like this team can firmly move on. I fully expect Justin Fields to go off on Sunday. We'll get to that as mentioned in a moment.
I don't.
But as I know you don't, but Dak Prescott was wildly impressive. I think we agree. George Pickens was wildly impressive. Clayton Adams, Cowboys offensive coordinator who came from Arizona. I mean, I have said so many times that I feel like we should, and I agree with myself, that we should give Matt Eberflus somewhat of a pass in that Micah Parsons was obviously traded away before the season began. He's dealing with a lot of injuries, right? Like that's hard to overcome. But then I look at Clayton Adams and the offensive line and what the Cowboys are dealing with. There's no Cooper Beebe. There's no Tyler Booker. Tyler Guyton has to leave this game. And all of that is difficult in general, but you're facing Micah Parsons and this stout Packers pass rush. And this offensive line and their leadership is able to overcome it. So that works against Matt Eberflus is my point. I feel badly for Matt Eberflus because I'm a big fan of him individually, but he is the biggest anchor on this team right now. There's no doubt about it.
What happened with your watch there that you were looking at?
Sometimes I don't want to say her name so it doesn't engage her, but the woman that is the like AI voice of the watch, you know how sometimes it just like it gets activated, and so
yes, I do know about that.
So I guess it heard everything I was saying and was either searching or answering what it thought was a question.
Well, the last name of the Eagles head coach is a tough one for that,
it's a tough thing.
Yeah. I thought obviously good performance by Dak, terrible performance by the defense. Weird overall result, as I know I saw. It was
so unsatisfactory.
Crazy that the Packers didn't. I thought they were going to blow that at the end there, but they didn't. And it's weird from a standpoint of seems like a good result from the Cowboys, and that a lot of people expected them to lose, right? So you're happy they didn't lose the game. That's good and all, but at the same time, to be able to have
the win, you had it. You should have it. It's not something that's like debatable. They should have won the game, and so. Yeah. And
that would have been massive. That would have been very massive for the standings, for like a lot of things to actually get the win there.
And I didn't mean to overrun you, but for Micah's entire time with the Cowboys, he was the best player on the team. And when he arrived, prior to Micah, Dak was the best player on the team. And so now we're at a place where Dak is, but like Dak really is the best player. Like, you know what I mean? Like he is. I mean, again, I think the only quarterback playing at a higher level than him at the moment is maybe Josh Allen right now. And, we're only in September and all the like mandatory, whatevers. But I mean, that it would have been massive to have that win and have like him plant that flag or have him plant that on behalf of the team. Right. Like, and I do think that the same point is understood that this team may have a fluke of a chance because of that. If you have that piece in obviously in place, you can do anything. And I would add, I haven't mentioned his name, but the head coach of the Cowboys, whose name, our watches doesn't have an issue with, but Brian Schottenheimer was really impressive. I mean, and certainly more impressive than Matt LaFleur. I've always thought highly of Matt LaFleur. What a coward. I mean, like what a coward, not only with how he handled the end of the game, but
from the Sean McVay tree.
Yeah. And not going for 2 different 4th and shorts across midfield early in the game against a team that was like kind of waiting for you to end
and
them.
then just playing for the tie. Like he seemed content with the tie.
Totally, that's the thing. Like I'm stealing from Bob Sturm, who had a great write up about this in his Substack. But I mean, of the 2 teams, one seemed pissed off to have to settle for a tie, and it was the Cowboys, and the other was like, hell yeah, we just got this tie, and it was the Packers that we believe, I don't think wrongly, but that we believe are Super Bowl contenders. Like what a loser move from the Packers and Matt LaFleur. And Jordan, I'm sorry, I don't mean to do the if it were the Cowboys thing, but if that had been Dak Prescott, who almost lost the game because of not knowing how much time was left,
like Jordan Love in the past,
Jordan Love is not getting any criticism for this. He almost single-handedly lost the game for the Packers by not understanding all the factors at play.
Yeah, it was pretty ugly, pretty bad. A less favorable clock operator could have just let the clock run for an extra second there, right at the end. So, but yeah, the Cowboys tie. It's weird for the standings. Just to have that tiebreaker over the Packers too would have been great for the Cowboys, who, you know, we'll see what the NFC North how that shakes out. But let's say we probably feel best right now about the Lions being able to win that. And if that's the case, the Packers are probably going to be in contention there for a wild card spot. Maybe the Cowboys surge and the Eagles fall off of the NFC East. But if they don't, you know, it could. My point is, it could come down to, you know, in the wild card seating there or standings, depending on if either team makes it at all. Like that game could have been massive for the Cowboys to have.
Last point for me is actually just about the Packers, and Sturm did write this too. Like, because I would have said the Packers were the favorite in the NFC North this time a week ago, but and they may get it together. Their defense may get it together, and going up against Dak right now is a difficult proposition. Totally understand that, but I might be lowest on Matt LaFleur of all 4 coaches in the NFC North, because how can you be such a coward when you're in that division? I mean, that is a division of go for it dudes, and so I mean, I am so out on them. And I don't mean to, I feel like we have to include something about Micah. It like that this was the game that ended in a tie was poetic in that it was Micah night and everything, and it all felt so fabricated and WWE like. But Micah did technically have the game-saving sack. You know, they did credit him for a sack. I mean, again, it was full of irony and amazing coincidence. But if I was a Packers fan, I would have to fight hard against the feeling of, why did we trade for this dude? You know, like as a result of this game specifically, you know what I mean? Like, and so he's been awesome for them. I mean, let's be very clear, but I would feel like, wow, we spent all this, you know, to trade for a dude, and we were supposed to have this lockdown defense. Like, how is this possible?
Yeah, I think that defense will ultimately be okay. I just, you know, I don't trust the head coach, to your point, in terms of the game management, and I don't trust the quarterback. Like, I hate. This is a very oversimplification. I hate how much Jordan Love throws off his back foot. It feels just like every pass, and very unnecessarily too. It's just like step up into a throw for once.
Yeah, a little bit of style points. I agree.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, so final game to discuss before we spin forward. The New York, kind of good at football once again, Giants beat the Los Angeles Chargers. Actually, before we get there, though, a very serious note. On Monday, the Giants announced that John Mara is fighting cancer. And so, you know, that we discuss all matters relative to the NFCs. I know I speak for you in saying we hope and pray the best for John Mara and the Mara family. We may have, you know, said some things in the past about the way they run their football team, but by all measures, phenomenal human beings, and obviously every NFL insider corroborates that. So all the best to the Mara family and to John Mara specifically.
Yeah, obviously echo those sentiments. On the football side of things, I mean, hey, the Giants got to win. They don't do that often.
You kind of called this. I don't think you took them in our expert picks at SB Nation, but you did say like it would not be shocking if they won.
I did take the spread. I did take it was like 5.5 because I like that a lot. I'm like, I think it's going to be, my thought was it would be it would be a moral victory for them. It'd be like a very close loss. And they'd be like, oh, we were like just there. It's positive things to build on with the Jaxson Dart era. Dart looked like, okay. It seemed like, you know, it's the first start. So you're not going to make too much out of it. Seemed to be fine. They lose Malik Neighbors. That's a huge deal for them when they just don't have a lot at wide receiver to begin with, even with him. So that's pretty crushing, I think, for that offense. But the fact that Dart's in there, again, it's like it almost doesn't matter from a standpoint of you're probably not going to contend this year, but at least you're putting the rookie quarterback in there to get to see what he looks like. And for as much as they might not be able to contend this year, especially being in that 0-2 hole in the division like we've talked about, that's pretty meaningful. They are in a spot here where they play the New Orleans Saints in week 5. So they could be 2-3. Saints are pretty bad. We'll see. Games in New Orleans, so not necessarily a gimme. And all of a sudden, then you're playing the Eagles 2 times in 3 weeks. So you can talk yourselves into it if you're a Giants saying, okay, we've won 2 in a row. Now if we can just beat the Eagles 1 time, like 3 wins all of a sudden, and maybe you're cooking with gas there. So they do have like this little bit of an opportunity to kind of like get excited about in front of them. I still think that there's issues with them that they are not going to be in that position. But even if just to win 2 games in a row, that feels like it's been a bit since the Giants have done that, especially like early in the season.
Yeah, I don't want to look, but I mean, 2022 would be my guess. The last time they won any 2 games in a row. In fact,
I think they did late in 2023, the DeVito run, I'm guessing.
So just to kind of look quickly here, they at no point won 2 games in a row last year. They did win 2 out of 3 last year at Cleveland and at Seattle. So, but 2023 they won 3 in a row, although the bye week was sandwiched in there. And then, but that was late in the season. Just quick, while we're here, shout out Pro Football Reference. 2022, they got off to that 6-1 start. So they certainly did have some success early on in the season. I don't know, and I agree with the chat that it's one sample size or one game sample size, and it wasn't like Dart threw the ball a ton. I mean, so whatever. But this is one of the few times where I'm almost willing to say I don't care about any of the data. I don't care about any of the evidence, because on Monday morning, and I wrote this in the Skinny Post, the column I do with our colleague Michael Peterson, on Monday morning, Giants fans woke up legitimately excited for the first time since when? Because I would even say that 2022 year, even the most like drunk with fandom Giants fans probably knew like it was not real. They were living in a simulation type thing. Even though they won a playoff game, it just had to feel fraudulent on a realistic level. And so to have your rookie quarterback come in his first start and beat a team that was having a lot of success that the national media had been talking about, to do it at home, to have his like right-hand man, Kim Scadaboo, score, like it just like you talked about it. We talk a lot about like feelings and emotion in sports, and it's not October, it's October Eve. And if you, there's obviously a lot of crossover, Giants, Yankees fans, and they're gearing up for a big playoff series against the Red Sox of all, like, you just like to go back to the vibes, like your sports heart has to be beating as strong as it has in a long time if you're a Giants fan, specifically because of the fact that they won. It has like the manner in which it happened, they can work on, they can figure out, and they can build upon. But that was such a needed for the Giants, momentum boost.
It's the biggest thing they've had to hang their hats on in some time. You talked about the 2022 team. They went 9-7-1. They were 3rd place in the division. Like, they had the Eagles, who looked awesome that year, and then the Cowboys both ahead of them. So even in that year,
they were always an afterthought, even that year, right? Like, because that year was just, and some of that was the Dak and Hurts thing and the 2 matchups and whatever and blah blah blah. But like, it was always, who's going to win? Is Dallas going to pry this away from Philadelphia? Oh yeah, New York kind of hangs out and exists here too. And then they had the last tie we saw in the division, obviously against Washington.
And then got so smoked too in the first. Well, they beat the Vikings in Minnesota, but then got smoked in the next round. All right, I think that's it in terms of.
Well, I will also say, just my last thing here. I don't like. It is rare that a rookie running back helps create a culture. Sometimes a rookie running back is awesome, but they're just like an awesome player. Like, I really think that Cam Scadaboo is helping make them believers. And Brian Burns had a big moment in this game. Like, this was one of those, like, everything went right for the Giants type thing. It was, I would never root for them, but it was kind of nice. I was happy for the little brother. It was kind of like, you know what, you did this on your own. We didn't help you out. Nobody helped you. Like, you did it. Pretty big indictment of your boy Justin Herbert, though.
I think, in fairness, the Chargers are leaking oil in a big way here. I mean, they lost, now both starting tackles? Like, it's pretty tough.
Joe Alt seems like it's not a season-ending thing. So, that's, I mean, it's still very difficult, but I mean, at least it's not, that. I mean, if we're looking for positives here. You mentioned looking forward. Are we ready to discuss the week 5 games?
Yeah, let's get into week 5 preview. And we in this segment, for the people who don't know, we usually go in chronological game order, not division order.
Yeah, so the Giants visit the Saints. You mentioned this. This is in the noon window, one of 3 NFC East games in the noon window. So they are in
That's
New
lame.
Orleans, and they have cut in to the home team 3-point spread. When was the last time that happened? Like, they're still underdogs technically, but I mean, they have cut into their 1.5 point dogs. Like, good for you guys. I mean, I really am happy for them. That's got to feel exciting.
Saints have shown some fight this year. They were close against the Cardinals. They were a little frisky in Buffalo before the Bills ultimately pulled away, and the Saints blew that red zone series there, trying to run the Philly special. But I'm going to take the Giants. I mean, plus 1.5. I'll take that. I think they have more juice going for them. I just don't really know what there is to feel good about for the Saints other than just having the home field advantage. And the Giants are also bad. But I'm going to say the Giants keep it going and win the game outright. So I'll take the plus 1.5.
I think the Saints' only thing to hang their hat on is we hung with the Bills for 2 quarters and 75% of a third. That's really all you've got right now, and that was impressive. But yeah, I mean, this is, if you're a Saints fan right now, you're focused on whether it's Lenore Sellers or Arch Manning. Like, you can't compromise this. You need to get what New York feels like they have right now. So I actually think that the Giants are going to win this game handily. I think this is going to be like a 30-13 game, and they are going to really feel good. And there's going to be some, I think we could beat the Eagles type, chatter. And I will say, if the Eagles finally fall off this week or before that, I could see that happening and it not being as like real of a win as it would look on paper. You know what I'm saying? I know that Alabama just beat Georgia, but like 2 weeks ago, for someone to beat Alabama was not impressive to me. You know what I mean? Because you're beating this like weaker version of who they are. Like, just because you did it and they wear the uniform doesn't mean you're slaying the dragon. So my point is, like, if the Giants were to beat the Eagles, I think it would take, like, the fall would have already happened. You know what I'm saying? That's my point. But that's a few weeks away.
Well, that would just be such a massive deal for them since they just don't do that.
Joe Judge did it. Joe Judge did it. Put some respect.
Joe Judge, but I mean, that's been a while now.
Okay, so we're both taking the Giants. The aforementioned Eagles are only 4.5 point favorites against the Broncos, who looked very good on Monday Night Football. Granted, the Bengals barely qualify. Yeah, they barely qualify as an NFL team. I'll go first here. I've picked against the Eagles last 2 weeks. But I mean, I felt justified in doing so. And I mean, the fact that everything is so like shaky makes that feel fair, but I'm not going to do it here. I don't really buy the Broncos. The Broncos to me are like a cousin of the Giants, and that they really pound their chest when they beat somebody bad. And so this week everybody's all, oh, look at it. And I think Bo Nix is awesome. Like, it really isn't anything about anyone specific, but they're a bit of a paper tiger to me is my point. And so I think they could get smashed. Like, this might be the get right game for Philadelphia. And then everyone will be, oh, what happened? The Broncos look so great on Monday Night Football. Also, I know we've said this, but just for the purposes of saying it, the double Monday night games are stupid. Yep. Nobody likes this. I don't know a single person that is of the mindset that this is the way this should go.
When did that Broncos game start, by the way?
Like,
did that start?
7? It was like an hour after the Dolphins game.
Okay.
The Dolphins game started an hour earlier than normal Monday Night Football.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So the Broncos game was like normal Monday Night Football time.
Anyway, yeah. So it is a short week, for the Broncos, who now have to travel across the country to Philadelphia for that 1:00 start. It's never ideal. I think coaches make a big deal out of that more than it probably is, but nevertheless, I just think the Eagles are impossible to pick against right now. I just am not going to do it until I see a reason to doubt them. I don't think everything is perfect, as I outlined earlier in the show, but I do think getting back home, having another game where there's things to work on would maybe help keep the carrot in front of them. Interested to see from a motivational standpoint. I talked last week about how it seemed to maybe be something in working in the Eagles' favor, that instead of kind of being the target like they were for the first 3 weeks of the season, they got to be the team that's like, okay, the target's on the Bucs because we can't beat them. That seemed to serve them well early in the game. And then obviously things fizzled from there. This game just kind of feels like more of just a game, like a normal game. There's no big storyline here. Sean Payton has relished beating the Eagles in the past, but he's playing in the AFC now. It's just there isn't like a lot of narrative juice for this game, I guess I would say. So maybe it makes it just more of a normal environment, and maybe the Eagles can get more of a normal win for once. So I'll take the Eagles here, and I'll take them to cover. I think they win by a touchdown.
I think this is an interesting note from Brad Eclipse that Patrick Surtain quieting AJ Brown could create some locker room issues potentially.
It doesn't even need to be Patrick Surtain. Could just be literally anyone at this point.
I was going to bring up that if AJ were to break out in general, I think that's the antidote for this problem. But if he were to do it against Patrick Surtain, that would really be the antidote, is my point. And then everything would feel, perfect and in harmony and blah, blah, blah. By the way, it really worked out for you that the Phillies play on Saturday and Monday. That was a nice break for BLG.
Although will be bad if it goes to a game 4, which I'm guessing, likely will, because then that's Eagles-Giants on the same night on Thursday Night Football in that Week 6 matchup. So would be nice if the the Phillies just sweep the Dodgers or the Reds.
We peel back the curtain a little bit here because we have I don't want to speak for you, but we have some pretty dream jobs. Like we're very, very, very blessed to get to do what we do. And so we always, kind of will say like, well, this is a little bit difficult, whatever. Going into the Sunday game the week before you have a Thursday game is awful. Like it's awful because you just know the like amount of things that are going to get condensed into the next 5-day run. So correct, but the good news is next Friday, you'll feel pretty good. Maybe not next Friday. Maybe next Saturday.
The back end is nice. That was certainly the case this year. Week 1, you could say the same thing where the game's over Thursday and then you just get that first weekend. So it's always the back end of that is always. So
we're both taking the Eagles. You intimated that you would not be taking the Jets. Now, if I may tell you one piece of information, the Cowboys are 2.5-point favorites at MetLife Stadium. By the way, the House of Horrors, and also like horrible look for MetLife that Malik Neighbors got hurt again, or not that he got hurt again, but someone got hurt again. The Cowboys, Brandon, have allowed each of the last 3 quarterbacks they played to throw for 3 touchdowns, although Caleb Williams threw for a 4th. This is only the 4th time in Dallas Cowboys franchise history that they have a 3-game streak going of this phenomenon happening, quarterbacks hitting a hat trick. By the way, what's it really say about Jalen Hurts that he couldn't, pass effectively against this Cowboys defense, but that everybody else could? I'm just asking questions.
I don't think it's a Hurts thing. I think it's an offense thing as a whole.
It was a joke, but you have never liked Justin Fields. I will back you up on this.
And I was so right about that.
I think he's had moments. Come on. But so
he was like a considerably heavy MVP favorite at one point, like betting favorite. People wasted so much money on that guy.
He had a nice run at the end of the 2022 season, whatever it was. So
you can't even remember it, which speaks to the point. It's not that impressive or memorable.
Wow. So nobody who won the MVP nobody who did not win the MVP in 2022 had a season we should ever talk about. That's good to know from Eagles fan Brandon Lee Gowton. That being said, Jets are 2.5-point dogs at home against the visiting Dallas Cowboys. Also, now that the Cowboys have a tie, they can finish 500. Haven't done that in a long time, but that door is open.
Would be very familiar, I think, for Cowboys fans. Yeah, I'm going to take the Cowboys here. I'm 0-4 against the spread, picking them this year. So maybe I'm going to be wrong again. Maybe that Jets team just has, a lot to, they really want to get on the board with a win. But I fade Justin Fields, and it tends to work out for me. Jets are also coming off, the short rest here. So I just don't see the Jets being able to pull this out. And 2.5 isn't really that much for the Cowboys to cover. I'll take the Cowboys.
My only win against the spread for Dallas was week 1 when I correctly identified that was way too large of a spread and whatever. Also, by the way, we continue to amass evidence that the offensive contain that Dallas's defense had at Philadelphia was a direct result of the lightning delay and nothing else, because literally all evidence.
Not really, though, because the Eagles actually had a really good performance relative to
they were the Eagles offense had not punted in that game prior to the lightning delay.
The volume numbers of that game don't quite match up to like the offensive efficiency numbers, since there were lower possessions in that game.
That's my point, though, is that the best the Cowboys defense has looked all season long has been that time post lightning delay, because they and it again we talked about that a million times, but like they forced several punts and 3 punts in a row, and oh my gosh, blah blah blah. So we have enough data, I think, to say, well, that was really mostly the lightning delay cooling everything off, or at least more than it was Matt Eberflus's group locking in. But whatever. I'm going to take the Cowboys.
So it actually helped them, is your point?
You said that's my point. Is it was fraudulent? Like it wasn't real. It was a mirage that they.
No, your point was that it hurt them originally, and now you've changed it to
it did hurt their offense. I said that. I said it hurt,
but it helped the defense.
I said it hurt both offenses. That was my point back then. Go watch the episode. And so, but my point coming off of it was we were going to see whether the defense truly did have an awakening, or if they just benefited from the lightning delay in the way that the Eagles defense did as well. And again, I'm proving to you that we have learned that it was specifically the lightning delay that helped the Cowboys defense as well as Philadelphia's, which is also exemplified by how Dak Prescott has played. That being said, I think Dak will continue his solid form. I think that Javonte Williams will continue his solid form. I think the Cowboys win comfortably, but I do think that the Jets offense looks more alive than it ever has. I don't just think that they just contain Justin Fields, because they are that bad, dude. I mean, they really are that bad.
Mm-hmm. That brings us to the Commanders at the Los Angeles Chargers in California. Chargers are less than standard 3-point favorites. They're 2.5-point favorites at home against the Commanders, a team that should be getting Jaden Daniels back this week. Who do you got?
I'm going to take the Chargers, especially because I only have to lay 2.5. I feel like I'm getting that half point. And so I don't hate the Chargers the way that like the non-Chargers fans tend to. I also don't like fully love them. I acknowledge they're a good team. They have a good quarterback. I just don't freak out about it. But I think that they're better right now. And I think that it's not fair to expect Jaden Daniels to come in and play supremely well. He didn't even play supremely well in the week 1 win they had against the Giants. And so, and I don't know about Terry McLaurin, like what that situation's like. I do think Deebo Samuel's playing well, but I'll take the Chargers and I'll lay the points.
Yeah, I don't think the line speaks well to the Chargers, because why aren't they just standard 3-point favorites? That minus half point is a little bit fishy to me. I'm kind of keeping an eye on that. But like you just said there, the Commanders defense is an issue. Herbert's mostly played well this year, and I know the offensive line is problematic, but I think he might be able to take advantage of that. And I just don't trust the Commanders defense. I don't trust Jaden Daniels, who might not – I don't fully trust him from the standpoint of I don't know where he's at right now. I don't know what version of the player he's going to be coming off of this injury. So I will go with the Chargers minus 2.5.
Okay. Well, so then we are each taking Philadelphia, Dallas, New York.
Chalk. We all agree.
And going against the Commanders. Okay. Should we do songs? Can you also explain this?
There's a playlist on Apple Music and Spotify. I don't know if that Spotify one is being updated because I don't use Spotify and I haven't double checked that, but hopefully it is. In any case, RJ and I pick a song to add to the NFC East Mixtape playlist because the name of the podcast has a musical theme. So we decided probably about like over 100 episodes in maybe to start doing an actual playlist. What is your song that you're going to add to the playlist this week?
So last week I added September, which was a 70s song. And it was because my son really likes it. I've also heard that song like 500 times in the last week since we did.
Do you know who it's by?
Earth, Wind,
and Fire.
You
didn't say it there, and I was wondering if you just
Oh, no, I knew. So I'm going to go with a similar kind of thing because it reminds me of my son. He likes it, but I'm zigging a little. He's getting a little bit into to Alvin and the Chipmunks, and so he really likes their version of Funky Town. Okay. I'm going to go with the original version of Funky Town by Lips Incorporated. Mm-hmm. Now, I am also going with this mostly because it reminds me of my son, but also because there were two moments in pop culture that it reminds me of that I really like. One is, do you remember the first season of America's Best Dance Crew?
No.
The Jabberwockies, which people know from their act in Las Vegas, won that season, and they were up for elimination for the only time ever when it got down to the final three. And it was the like theme was the evolution of pop or something like that. And their performance was incredible. And it started off with Funky Town. Also, a really funny comedy that from the 2000s that people don't talk about enough, Evolution. And that movie was so funny with Sean William Scott and I forget who, Julianne Moore, and I forget who else. But as much as I love the movie, but there's a scene where they are singing to Funky Town. And so, no, it's not Funky Town. Is it? I don't know. But Evolution's a great movie. Actually,
great story.
Is it? I'm looking this up. What movie? I can't remember if it's it's Play That Funky Music. That's the song. Okay, I was close, but still, you should watch that movie. It's Lip Sync. I didn't even know that it was pronounced Lip Sync. Did you know this?
No.
But that's the phonetic pronunciation. It's spelled lips under or comma Inc. like Lips Incorporated. I didn't know that it was phonetically said Lip Sync. So that's funny.
We should do I don't know what the contest is, but we should do some kind of contest of some sort where a listener wins and then they get to pick a song to add to the playlist. I don't know the machinations of that, but we should probably do something where
I like that. Some
incentive for listeners to be able to add songs. So let's think on that.
Some lip syncative.
Let's get some comments in the YouTube comments of these videos with some suggestions, some ideas for that. And if there's a good one, then we'll just roll with that. I'm going to add a song where I love the music video. I love the song too. You ever just think of a song or you rediscover a song? You knew it existed. You didn't forget it, but it's I just haven't listened to that in so long. Wow, what a great song. I'm going to go with 1,000 Miles by Vanessa Carlton. An awesome song. I could listen to that forever. Great song.
First of all,
and watch the video.
Didn't realize that it's spelled out in the song name. I would have guessed it was like the numeric 1000.
A space THOUSAND. Yes.
I don't recall this music video off the top of my head.
Are you kidding me? She's playing the piano.
And it's driving through the city or whatever.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, I mean, what I would say is that the best video from this is from White Chicks when Terry Crews is singing it. That's way funnier than
no.
This is
I mean,
cool.
It might be funnier, but I'm not going for funny. I'm just going for great.
I like that both of our songs, even though mine isn't actually in the movie Evolution, but it reminded me of that. But both songs are a play to 2000s pop culture.
Yeah.
Both by Vanessa Carlton in general, but also White Chicks. And Vanessa Carlton had some bangers back in the day. She sings everywhere, right? Or is that Michelle Branch? I think that's Michelle Branch. You know what I'm talking about? 'Cause you're everywhere to me. I think that's Michelle.
I don't think so. I'm not seeing it on her top songs.
It is by Michelle Branch.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's right. So I crossed some wires, with several thoughts here. But 1,000. Also, if you have a strong piano in your song, it generally is a good song.
Coldplay, Clocks. I love a song with just
the Fray.
Iconic, great piano.
The Fray has a lot of great piano sons. Superman.
A lot of Elton John songs.
A lot of Elton John's, but the song Superman by Five for Fighting, or it is called Superman. But they also talk about years. They might say 100 years, not 1,000 miles.
Yes.
I'm all lost in thought. I also watched the new Superman movie. It was okay.
I've heard good things. Haven't seen it.
Wow.
He's a big Eagles fan, that guy.
Adam's Exploit says, crazy how many 80s and early 90s songs are played everywhere. Adam, what I would say to you is the people who grew up in that era now are important people in society. That's why, that's just the age that they're at.
I would say that era, I would say, though, that era has aged especially well.
I agree. I'm going to make us both sound really old right now, but they just don't make music like that anymore,
I don't think they make obviously this isn't true en masse. I feel like they just don't make music anymore. I feel like young people, this is
dude. Oh my god.
I feel like people I feel like people don't listen to songs. They listen to clips of songs.
Yeah, like TikTok sounds. That's
what I mean. That's way more popular. And I'm not even hating on that. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm just saying it's different. Things have shifted. It is what it is.
Wow. Well, shout out to Funky Town and 1,000 Miles. I'm gonna go rewatch the music video. I like the spirit of picking a song because of the music video. That art is lost. There are a lot of songs that I think we both love because of the music video that we wouldn't have liked if not for the video.
I mean, I like this song regardless, but yes, that just only adds to it for me.
Wow. So get off our lawn here on the NFC East Mixtape. Brandon, as we leave, can you tell us your favorite thing about lawns?
I used to like to mow the lawn. I would enjoy doing that. I'd put my Walkman on, speaking of being old, and listen to either Boxcar Racer, their first album, Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 in that band, or Nickelback, Silver Side Up, that album. Yeah, I enjoyed mowing the lawn.
With like the headphones that had the fuzzy stuff,
Yeah,
that would be troublesome while mowing the lawn. You know, all that grass would kind of get up there and stick.
Wasn't an issue.
Good for you. I'm proud of you. All right, say lawn.
Lawn.